Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Step by Step Pokemon. It has been a while since I made a video, and we have moved. I've been applying for grad school. We've just kind of had a lot going on recently, but I should be able to make some more consistent videos at this point. I've also been waiting for Burning Shadows to release so we can play some post-rotation decks. I didn't really want to bore you guys with pre-rotation, pre-Burning Shadows decks. Not that that's necessarily boring, but it doesn't really impact any tournaments that are coming up. So I really kind of wanted to wait, plus get the move out of the way and get some things that I wanted to get taken care of done before I release any more videos. So here we are. I hope you like this. Today we're going to be taking a look at Weavile Garbodor. It's a little bit of a weird combination, but the best thing about Trashalance Garbodor is not the fact that it's so cute and non-smelly, but the fact that it makes your opponent have to make difficult decisions. So the point of pairing it with something like Weavile is to put a lot of pressure on the decisions that your opponent is going to make. If you, post-rotation, if you want to play 2 to 3 Tapu Leles in your deck, you're really going to have to decide if playing them down is worth it, when Rule of Evil for one of any energy is putting 60 damage on each Pokemon in play that has an ability. Now it does damage your own Pokemon. At the point in filming this deck, my testing is kind of in a young stage, I guess. It's not super complex yet. So I don't have Garbotoxin Garbodor in here, simply because I don't want to knock it out in 2 turns if I'm using Weavile to do 60 damage to stuff that has abilities. I would also not mind having a Mr. Mime to protect my own Tapu Leles, but bench space can get a little bit thin. Acerola can pick up the Tapu Leles, but again, I'd have to play one down just to find it unless I just held on to it or happened to come across it. So there's a couple of different things that could be changed in the deck, but right now we're just kind of testing out the beginning stages of the deck. So the strategy, of course, there's a few things. One, I'm seeing post-rotation decks running anywhere from, a lot of lists running anywhere from 16 to 18 supporters. I mean, even taking a look at this list, we've got 12, which I think is a little light for a post-rotation deck, but because it's Garbodor, I'm okay with playing a bunch of item cards. So I've got things like Energy Lotto and Random Receiver, as weird as that sounds, in this list, just to kind of make up for that. And I've got 3 Tapu Leles, just so I can get whatever I want when I want it, to make up for the loss of VS Seeker, of course. So I feel like with a strategy going towards more ability-based consistency and supporter-based draw and consistency, Garbodor does lose a little bit of its efficiency. So there's really 2 ways to keep Garbodor powerful from what I've been testing. One is, of course, to combine it with Weavile, so you can do 60 damage. Hey, your opponent's got 2 Tapu Leles down, sweet, let's put 60 damage on all of them. Your opponent's got 2 Gardevoir, an Octillery, and a Tapu Lele in play, let's go ahead and just put 240 damage on the field. Like, basically, either let's knock things out with Weavile over the course of 3-ish turns and take a ton of prizes, or let's just soften them up for a solid Trashalance. I mean, you put 60 damage on a Gardevoir, and then it only has 170 hit points left. You attach a choice band to Garbodor, and then you only have to hit for 140 damage. Granted, yes, Gardevoir is going to use its GX attack and pull all the item cards back into its hand. I'm just using that as an example of softening up something with high HP. Now, of course, in that matchup, you basically would just want to stream your Weaviles over and over again. Depending on whether or not they rare candied or not, if you can get 1 to 2 Weaviles off, depending on it, like I said, if the Gardevoirs are rare candied, then you just want to use Miraculous Shine with Espeon, devolve all the Gardevoirs, and basically win. So now, obviously, the matchup is not that straightforward and simple, but that's just the strategy behind the deck. So Garbodor can basically hit for decent amounts of damage, even if you're only hitting for 70 or 80. You do that a couple turns in a row combined with a Guzma, and then devolve some things, and then you might take a decent amount of prizes. But basically the thought behind the deck is let's just spread a bunch of damage to the most important cards post-rotation, because you're going to see a lot of Gardevoir, Metagross, Weavile, haha, yeah, well, probably only from me, Volcanion. There'll be a lot of stuff post-rotation that relies heavily on abilities, and I really think that Weavile putting pressure on the ability Pokemon, Garbodor putting pressure on the discard pile, and Espeon knocking things out when it devolves them is going to be a pretty decent strategy post-rotation. If you caught the last video that Rare Candy put out that I was featured in talking about post-rotation decks, and huge shout out to Rare Candy for featuring me in that video, that was really awesome and cool of them. Eric mentioned a bunch of times that there could be some sort of spread damage and devolve deck that could be good post-rotation, and this is one of my attempts on having that strategy incorporated into an already strong strategy from Garbodor. So, or Garbodor, if that makes you feel better to hear it said that way. So this deck has a really good matchup versus Volcanion. It's got a pretty decent matchup versus a lot of things. Darkrai EX is a pretty bad matchup for this one. You're going to see that in one of the videos as well. It's actually going to be a matchup where Darkrai EX is playing against a little bit different version of this deck, and I'm going to upload that in a separate video. Today we're actually just going to see this matchup versus Greninja Break. We're going to see a pre-rotation Greninja Break versus a post-rotation Garbodor Weavile, and I hope everyone enjoys, so we'll go ahead and begin. Alright guys, we'll go ahead and start the match. So we can see that we're playing against a pre-rotation Greninja deck because there's a level ball. So right off the bat we kind of know what we're facing, and it'll be an interesting one because Weavile will be putting 60 damage on the Greninja Breaks, which should allow Garbodor to hit the right numbers to get the knockout. So this will definitely be an interesting matchup. Not sure if it's a Talonflame version or not, but seeing a start with Froakie after multiple mulligans, I would think it's probably not a Talonflame version. Of course, we see a super useless Pokemon. Ooh, a Repeat Ball. Yeah, I definitely don't think this is a Talonflame version. Also interesting that Repeat Ball didn't pull out any Froakies. I guess that's Greninja for you. Sometimes you don't get what you need. Dang, that's crazy. Okay, cool. So we're going to go ahead and I think the best play for this deck is going to be probably setting up multiple Garbodors. So we'll go ahead and get rid of Guzma. I don't see myself really needing Guzma that much in this matchup. Definitely don't see myself needing Turtonator. So let's see, what should we get here with Ultra Ball? We'll get Trubbish. Like I said, setting up multiple Garbodors is going to be a big deal. Now, attaching this Double Colorless Energy to Trubbish is actually a huge advantage for me, because next turn, if I can get a Garbodor out with a Psychic Energy, I can Acid Spray for 70 damage and knock out the active expected Frogadier. So I feel like that's a huge deal. So I don't think there would have been any point in playing Random Receiver last turn. I don't think any other supporter would have been more effective in what I was wanting to accomplish. So we can see he is playing a decent amount of item cards. I think he's got 3 down now. And we also see Stardust Jirachi, so we'll have to look out for that. So we've got 3 Frogadiers on board and a Froakie. So I do draw into the Garbodor, which is a huge deal. I would love to be able to use my Super Rod or Rescue Stretcher here, but I don't want to put Turtonator back in my deck. I also don't want to end him to 6. He's got 3 item cards in the discard. But of course, Acid Spray is going to take the knockout. So we'll just use Tapu Lele here. I think I'm going to take a Sycamore. I'm taking the Sycamore because really the cards in my hand aren't super helpful at this point in the matchup, but I think it could have been a better play to take something like a Bridget just to set up a little bit more rather than going ahead and discarding my recovery cards. That never seems like a super good idea versus Greninja. But I just kind of made an aggressive move, and it may not have been the best play in this situation, to be completely honest. That's why you guys come here, right? For good ideas and honesty. Maybe. Maybe that's why you come here. I don't know. Teammates. Every time I see teammates or every time I get one of my Pokemon knocked out, I feel so sad that I can't just use teammates to get whatever I want. Ooh, this is nice. So it's the version of, yeah, give him the heart. It's a rare candy version of Greninja. I like that. So now we've got two Greninjas on the field. Field Blower doesn't make any sense. I mean, I don't think it makes too much sense here. Yeah, I mean, it just powers up Garbodor, and Acid Spray was already doing, I think, less damage than Trash Lance anyway. So I like Jirachi, but I don't see the point. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I mean, Trash Lance was going to do 100 damage anyway, and now it's doing 120, whereas Acid Spray was only doing 70, not counting the resistance on Jirachi. So I'm not 100% sure what the point of that was. Guzma's so good. It just completely eliminates Stardust. Getting 2 early knockouts on Frogadiers here is crucially huge. It puts me in a great position. If I didn't do that and he got to the point where he was like, oh, I've got 3 Greninjas and 2 Greninja Breaks out on the field, it probably would have turned out pretty bad for me. Getting N to 4 always feels bad too, especially against Greninja. Hey, there's my heart. But my hand actually isn't that bad. So right here is a good situation for a learning moment for us all. So I look through my deck and I see that there's 2 Field Blowers, and then I see that I've got a Kukui and a Sycamore. And for some reason I take the Sycamore, thinking that if I'm going to Sycamore, I have 2 Field Blowers, so I've got a 1 in 14, 1 in every 14 cards is a Field Blower, and then I would Sycamore and hopefully draw into it so I can Field Blower the Choice Band on the back Greninja and do 140 damage. That was super not a good idea. So I am having to waste another Lele just to go back in my deck and take the Kukui. The Kukui makes way more sense in this situation. I'm doing 120 damage. Kukui's going to bump it up to 140. It's going to give me the knockout on Greninja. And now I've wasted a bench space and put down another target for Greninja Break. And it was not a good idea. But hey, it's a learning moment. Always think before you make plays. Think about your other options. Just because you see one option as the way out doesn't mean it's the only option. So definitely something that we could have done a little bit different. And we're still streaming the teammates here, which is a good play by him. So a couple things, yeah, I mean, I think in this video we've got some learning moments. One, always think about all your options. So the Kukui play would have been way better than the Sycamore play, obviously. And then always play a little more conservatively, I think, versus Greninja. I don't think I should have, actually I know for a fact I should not have Sycamored away all my recovery cards. I should have just gotten a Bridget and set up more stuff on the bench, so. Or even an N if for some reason I was comfortable giving him 6 cards earlier in the game, but not super comfortable with that option. Now here is an interesting point in the game. I'm not sure if having Garbotoxin Garbodor, I just don't know. I don't know how effective that would have been at this point. I think it would have been a pretty good card to have. I don't know. I would have to set up a whole nother one and then not had any other alternate attackers. I just don't know. Thus is the reason why we test, right? So this is kind of a tough Ultra Ball. I'm thinking, hey, I can hit Greninja Break for pretty heavy damage here and then devolve it next turn with Espeon. Or I could hit it for pretty heavy damage and then just hit it with Weavile. Or hit it with another Garbodor to get the knockout, as long as he doesn't access like a max potion or something. So kind of an interesting turn. Not 100% sure what the best play is. I think the best play is to just go for the two-shot, either with Garbodor or Weavile, and not worry about the de-evolution play. But hey, I guess when I was making this decision, I just decided to go for... Yeah, that wasn't a good play either, to be completely honest. I don't see... I mean, I guess I get it. I wouldn't want to... Not having any recovery cards... excuse me. Not having any recovery cards left in the deck, I wouldn't want to not have access to my Espeon, but with only 3 prizes left and doing a decent amount of damage, I just don't really see why I would need Espeon in this matchup. When you step out of the game and analyze it, kind of like we're doing right now, because I always play my games and then record commentary over them later, you can kind of see your mistakes, and that definitely was a mistake. Yeah, I mean, look, on the field right now, I've got a Weavile or an Espeon, so I know I'm going to do a move next turn to take a knockout, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem... I mean, granted, Espeon gets around Splash Energy, because as you can see, Splash Energy only is effective if it's knocked out by damage. So, I don't know. And that Field Blower wasn't a super great play either, because that's just going to bump up my Garbodor to 160 damage. So, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of going for the Espeon strategy like I was just saying. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, I guess he's just protecting his Greninja Break. But there's really not a way to protect the Greninja Break if you read Weavile, and of course you know what Espeon does. So hit me for 10 damage, yeah, I mean, that just seems extremely ineffective. I mean, at this point, I might as well just start powering up the Espeon just in case anything weird happens. Choice Band is pointless, so I'm getting it out of my hand in case I get N. And at this point, I'm more than happy to just trash a Lance. Of course, I can't retreat or anything like that. Damage now, so, I mean, it would only be doing 160 if we didn't play the pointless Field Blowers that were played earlier. So the Greninja Breaks would survive, but now they definitely won't, obviously. So we're Shuriken Garbodor. And at this point, yeah, at this point, Weavile's looking like a great option. Because I've only got 2 prizes left, and 2 turns of Weavile will be pretty devastating to my opponent. So he's going to Shadow Stitching for the knockout. But at this point, I don't think it really matters. We're going to Random Receiver just to see what we get. So we get a second N. I know the Jirachi has already been knocked out, so I'm not extremely worried about another Jirachi coming in and discarding my double colorless from my Weavile. But I really need to start loading up an alternate attacker. Most likely a Tapu Lele, because I do have more energies left in the deck. And that would end up being my best attacker in a worst case scenario. Yeah, like I said earlier, being aggressive was not a good idea when I played that Sycamore and discarded my recovery cards because I could go a whole nother route here and just kind of, recover some stuff and not feel as worried. But at this point, I still felt a little bit worried. So yeah, Weavile, of course, Rule of Evil is going to do 60 to Star Me and 60 to the active Greninja Break, knocking out the active Greninja Break, which is awesome. And then it's got 30 on Star Me after he uses Rough Seas, and he just concedes simply because at this point there's not much that you can do. You're just going to drop 60 on it next turn. Even if he evolves, the most that he can do is 80 damage, I believe, from his Greninja. So there's really nothing that can happen at this point for him to be able to come back and win the game. So that was it. I really hope you enjoyed the game. Definitely had some learning moments in there as far as messing around with the deck and focusing on keeping your recovery and not getting rid of it. And then just making a couple other different plays that I think we can learn from. I hope you guys learned from it too. I hope you enjoyed Garbodor Weavile. It definitely has some really good matchups and some iffy matchups out there, but we'll keep exploring the best use for cards like Garbodor and Weavile here on the channel. And of course, we'll do some other stuff too, so I really appreciate you guys watching. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe and let me know what you think of the videos. And as always, whenever you're playing Pokemon, remember to have fun. Thanks, guys.